The legacy of ancient Greece. How did ancient Greece contribute to the modern world?
Introduction.
An ancient story still told today describes a Greek philosopher named Archimedes, who climbed into a bath filled to the brim with water. As the water overflowed onto the floor, he realized something extraordinary. The volume of his body could be measured by the amount of water that escaped the tub. After making this discovery, Archimedes is said to have shouted, "Eureka!" which translates from Greek to "I have found it." By being curious and by analyzing events, Archimedes had discovered an interesting fact about the natural world. Curiosity and careful observation are crucial in the study of science. This process of thinking is one of the many gifts that people today have received from the ancient Greeks. The Greeks left behind valuable ideas in many other fields as well. Not only have important concepts originated in Greece, but so have many of the words still used to describe those concepts. The world of the ancient Greeks may seem distant, but it is as close as the thoughts you have and the words you speak. In this lesson, you will explore the advances that the ancient Greeks made in many aspects of their civilization. You will also uncover how these achievements continue to influence our world today. Let's examine Greek contributions to modern times in the areas of language, government, medicine, mathematics and science, architecture, entertainment, and sports. 1. Literature and history. Were you aware that the word alphabet comes from the first two letters of the Greek alphabet, alpha and beta? The English alphabet grew out of the one ancient Greeks used. In addition, many English words come from Greek words. For example, the word telephone is a combination of the Greek words tel, meaning far off, and phone, meaning voice. Even the way we write sentences originates from the language of ancient Greece. The rules of English grammar, punctuation, and paragraphing are all based on Greek writing. Additionally, Greek influence is apparent in today's literature. For instance, the Greeks created drama, including both tragedy and comedy. They also developed historical writing. Modern historians follow in the footsteps of great Greek writers such as Homer, Herodotus, known as the father of history, and Thucydides. The female poet Sappho's lyric poetry still captivates readers. Thucydides was one of the greatest historians of ancient Greece. He wrote History of the Peloponnesian War, an account of the conflict between Athens and Sparta in the 400s BCE. Although he was an eyewitness to history, he was careful to present facts rather than his own viewpoint or opinion. He is remembered today as one of the founders of historical writing. Herodotus is known as the father of history. He wrote a history of the wars between the Greeks and the Persians. 2. Government. The Greek concept of democracy, or rule by the people, began in Athens. So did the practice of citizens serving on juries. Many countries have been influenced by the Greeks. Democratic government in the United States has roots in ancient Greece. There are a number of notable differences, however, between American democracy and ancient Greek democracy. For example, in Athens, all citizens debated and voted on every issue. However, in the United States, citizens elect representatives to speak for them and create laws. Another difference is that only native-born men could be citizens in Athens. But in the United States today, all people born in this country are U.S. citizens, and immigrants can become citizens, too. Still, the ancient Greeks developed the basic principles of democracy. Athenians were proud that their government allowed citizens to control their own destiny, a belief that remains the basis of democracy today. 3. Medicine. For centuries, the Greeks believed that gods and goddesses controlled natural events, including health and sickness. In fact, the earliest Greeks believed that illnesses and accidents were punishments sent by the gods. A Greek man named Hippocrates, changed how people regarded health and medicine. Hippocrates is often called the father of medicine. He brought a scientific way of thinking to his profession as a doctor. Hippocrates believed that diseases had natural causes. He taught his students to carefully document observations of their patients. Greeks also became experts in herbal medicine. Even more important, Hippocrates established principles of medicine that are still relevant. Today, people who become doctors take the Hippocratic Oath, based on these ideas of ethical behavior. Doctors promise to be honest, to preserve life, and to keep information about their patients private. The Greeks enjoyed participating in and watching competitions in sports. Their interest in athletics gave them insight on how the human body moves and functions and the connection between fitness and overall well-being, including mental health. However, their understanding of the body was limited, partly because it was forbidden to look inside the body to see how it worked, as cutting open a body was thought to offend the gods. As these beliefs evolved over time, the Greeks made new discoveries in this field. Several centuries after Hippocrates, Greek medical students could name and describe organs inside the body. For example, they discovered that the heart functioned as a pump that sent blood flowing throughout the body. Additionally, they learned that the brain was the center of the nervous system. Hippocrates emphasized principles of meta-sin including ethical conduct. This vase painting shows a Greek doctor treating a patient. The Hippocratic Oath has changed only slightly over the years. How do you think it may have changed? 4. Mathematics. The Greeks enjoyed reasoning, or searching for logical answers to nature's mysteries. Greek scientists often found those solutions in the field of mathematics. One such scientist, Pythagoras, believed that numbers were the key to understanding nature. He established a school where students developed mathematical theories. Like many Greeks, Pythagoras was especially fascinated by geometry, which comes from a Greek word that means to measure land. Geometry began as a system for measuring areas of land. The Egyptians could also measure shapes and spaces, but the Greeks created new and improved methods. Using geometry, they could solve problems such as how much seed to purchase for planting a field or how to most efficiently design a city. Another famous Greek mathematician was Euclid. His geometry textbook has been used as the basis for the teaching of geometry for more than 2,000 years. Greek culture produced the first woman to earn fame as a mathematician, Hypatia. She taught Greek philosophy and mathematics in the city of Alexandria. Hypatia helped further develop the astrolabe and principles in geometry. 5. Astronomy. Astronomy, the scientific study of outer space, comes from the Greek word for star. Ancient Greeks were pioneers in this field. People in all civilizations observed the sun, moon, and stars, but a Greek scientist named Aristarchus was the first person to suggest that Earth revolves, or moves, around the sun. This idea agitated many Greeks who believed that Earth was the center of the universe. Another Greek, Hipparchus, is often referred to as one of the greatest scientists of the ancient world. He studied and named more than 850 stars, and he also determined how to estimate the distances from Earth to both the sun and the moon. His theories allowed later scientists to accurately predict eclipses of the moon. 6. Geography. The study of geography has origins in ancient Greece. The word geograph comes from Greek words that translate to writing about the earth. The Greek historian Herodotus wrote about what he found in such detail that later geographers could reconstruct a map of the world as he described it in 450 BCE. To gather the information, Herodotus posed geographic questions, many of which he answered by traveling and by speaking with other voyagers. Another notable geographer of ancient times was Ptolemy, a Greek scientist who lived in Alexandria, Egypt. He wrote a book called Geographia that listed about 8,000 locations around the world and contained maps that showed how to represent the curve of Earth on a flat surface. Ptolemy also designed a system of lines drawn on a map called latitude and longitude. With this system, he recorded the specific locations for the thousands of places he listed in his book. Centuries later, Arab scholars would further develop the study of geography, especially in the field of mapmaking. Ptolemy, a great geographer of ancient Greece, educated many about the numerous locations in the world. In this painting, he uses an instrument called a compass to demonstrate how to measure distances between two sites on a map. 7. Biology. Ancient Greeks developed the science of biology. About 600 BCE, Greek thinkers believed each event has a cause and an effect, so they examined the natural world through this lens. Curiosity led Greeks to study plants and animals. Scientists learned about the anatomy, or body structure, of animals and humans, which helped doctors advance their medical studies. The Greeks identified plants and also named their parts. The Greeks learned that plants reproduce by spreading seeds. Greek doctors used plants, such as herbs, as medicines and pain treatments. Because living things fascinated the Greek philosopher Aristotle, he collected information about various types of animals and plants. Then he organized animals into groups, such as those with backbones and those without backbones. He divided plants into such groups as herbs, shrubs, and trees. The way animals and plants are classified, or grouped, today reflects the work of Aristotle. 8. Architecture. The word architecture comes from a Greek word that means master builder. Greek architecture was one of the achievements of the Golden Age of Athens. One notable feature was how the Greeks used columns to make their temples appear balanced and stately. Another feature was the pediments, or the triangular shapes where roof lines connect. And a third architectural feature was the decorated bands called friezes. Skilled craftsmen, laborers, and enslaved people made these achievements possible. Today, Greek styles are still used in many buildings. They are common in public structures such as government buildings, schools, churches, libraries, and museums. The U.S. Capitol and Supreme Court have elements of Greek architecture, such as columns and pediments. You can also find Greek architectural styles in homes and stores. For example, many houses have covered porches, similar to the Greek stoa, which is a covered line of columns. 9. Theater. The word theater is derived from a Greek word that translates to a viewing place. Greek theaters were built as semicircles with rows of seats rising steeply from the stage so that everyone in the audience could see and hear, like theaters today. The Greeks even invented special effects. For example, they used hoists to lift actors off the stage so that they appeared to be flying. The Greeks also created scenery that revolved, which allowed them to quickly change where the action in a play was occurring. Perhaps the greatest Greek contributions to the theater are their stories and plays. Greek myths and tales have inspired writers throughout the ages. Many novels, such as The Hobbit and Don Quixote, are retellings of the Odyssey. Greek dramas are still performed around the world. Greek actors wore masks that showed which character they were playing. These masks were especially helpful when a Greek male was portraying a Greek female character. What do you think about actors playing roles they don't match physically? 10. Sports. Many modern sports trace their roots back to ancient Greece. The most famous example is the Olympic Games. The first Olympics were held in 776 BCE to honor the Greek god Zeus. Today's Olympic Games reflect ancient Greek customs. However, today they include women, and people with disabilities can participate in the Paralympics. During the opening ceremony, an athlete ignites the Olympic flame. This custom comes from the time in ancient Greece when the first Olympic athletes lit a fire on the altar of Zeus. Numerous modern Olympic events originated from Greek contests. One example is the pentathlon, which means 5 contests in Greek. The Greek pentathlon included the foot race, discus throw, long jump, javelin throw, and wrestling. The pentathlon remains an Olympic event. A Uyghur and a Chinese athlete light the flame for the 2022 Olympics in Beijing, China. Lesson summary. In this lesson, you learned how ancient Greek civilization affects today's world. Literature, history, and government. The modern alphabet, English grammar, drama and historical writing, and democratic government all trace their roots to the ancient Greeks. Medicine. Hippocrates applied scientific thinking to medicine and established a code of ethics used by doctors today. Centuries later, Greek medical students made discoveries about the heart and the brain. Mathematics. Pythagoras and Euclid made important advances in geometry that are still taught today. Astronomy and geography. Greek scientists suggested that Earth revolves around the sun. They named hundreds of stars and estimated the distances from Earth to both the sun and the moon. Greeks created the first maps and the system of latitude and longitude that is still used today to find locations on Earth. Biology. Greeks developed the scientific study of plants, animals, and humans called biology. The way we classify animals and plants is based on the work of Aristotle. Architecture, theater, and sports. Greek building styles, including columns and pediments, are seen today in public and private structures. Greek plays, stories, and myths are read today. Even the Olympic Games first began in ancient Greece.